Join Steve Kirkpatrick at Hughenden Manor near High Wycombe for a wild food walk.
Hi, my name's Steve Kirkpatrick. I'm the estate ranger for Hughenden Manor, which is the lovely site we're at today. It's a 680 acre estate with a manor house in the centre which belonged to Benjamin Disraeli. Just today we're going to go on a short wild food walk and just see what we can find. There's not as much out as normal because we're in mid-September now, but we're still going to have a look. So if you care to follow me, we'll head along. Right, this plant here is called ivy-leafed toadflax. This is a wonderful plant. It likes to grow on walls and that, and it's gorgeous. And it doesn't just spread down by dangling, it will also spread up the wall. I've only ever seen it do it on TV, and I must admit I've spent hours sat here watching it to do it, and it's like watching paint dry. But what it does do is, as it decides to spread up the wall, it will just gently lift itself up over time and hook itself on, and then stay up there. But the advantage with ivy-leafed toadflax is you can eat it! So if you pick one of these lovely leaves, you can put them in your salad or just eat them fresh. They're full of water, full of moisture, and they're slightly peppery in taste. I must admit they are one of my favourite ones. They pretty much grow anywhere where there's a bit of wall in the Cheltenham. Let's keep going. We're now at a blackberry bush, or bramble as they're commonly known, and it's very easy to pick blackberries off of here, which we all know we can eat. They taste lovely, I will tell you. You should always eat them before the first frost, because after that they taste foul. You can make wine, vinegars, soups with blackberries, chutneys, jams. I just like to eat them raw. What most people don't know is you can eat the young fresh tips of the blackberry bush, which is just that. That's all they are, nice and edible. And you just go down nice, again mixing them with a bit of salt. We stood here at this plant here called Herb Bennet. Not Herb Bennet, sorry, this is, it is Herb Bennet. And Herb Bennet leaves you can eat as well, which tastes quite nice. But the advantage with these, if you make them into a nice tea with a fresh leaf, they're good to help fight against diarrhoea, colic, or just general stomach upsets. But you can add them in salad and it does exactly the same. Right, we've just stopped here next to a young beech tree. Beech trees are great, they have many a property of goodness. If you were to take some of the bark, dry it out and then grind it up, you can make beech bark tea by boiling water over it, and that's good against rheumatism. So if you drink some of that every couple of days or so, it's always good, just a nice refreshing cup. But there's also many more things. If, unfortunately we haven't got any at the moment, if you were to collect beech nuts, you could grind them up and squeeze out the liquid in them, which is a type of oil, and in the olden days they used to use that for the poor man's lantern oil and things, because you couldn't always afford to buy it. But my favourite one was beech leaf, is that if you come when beech leaves first come out and they're young, tender and soft, you can make a gorgeous drink called beech leaf no-you. What you do is you pick loads of beech leaves, put them in a container, so I use a sweetie top, which you get in the sweet shops. You can tell where I go for my shopping. And then you pour either a gin or vodka in so that there's more beech leaves than that. About a 750 bottle, say, to give you the quantity. And you just seal it up with cling film, we'll do the lid up, put it in the window for 4 weeks, and then after 4 weeks you come back, you heat up 3/4 of a pint of water with 125 grams of sugar. Just heat it up, don't boil it, and just until the sugar dissolves, and then you add a generous dollop of brandy, and I mean generous. I like to think of it as sort of a quadruple if you go to the pub, perhaps a bit more, and stir that in. And then you strain the vodka or gin, whichever you've used, from the beech leaves, and you pour that in as well, and just stir it and just, you know, gently heat it through for about 10 minutes, perhaps 15 minutes, and then it's ready to drink. And I mean, you can either drink it warm or cold, but it tastes like Christmas pudding for the first year. And if you keep it long enough, it just gets more mellow and nicer every year. And I don't know how to describe it after that, but it's just gorgeous. But that's for all you people who you know, are old enough to drink and like alcohol. What we've got here is ground elder. That's this plant here. When this plant is young and tender, you can pick the leaves and use it in stuffing in pork and things like that. But the other one is, if you were to dig up the root, they used to use it in the olden days to help clear beer, so that you'd have a nice pint of beer to drink. What we come to now is there's a lovely old fallen tree here rotting away, and the good thing about fallen trees and stumps is that if you rip a bit off or turn over a stump or something like that, you've got to be gentle when you do it. Don't just kick it or things like that. You might find grubs underneath, worms, caterpillars, whatever. You know, not caterpillars, sorry, millipedes or so on. We might be lucky enough to have a look and see. There we go, we've got a worm there, and you can always eat worms, or if you find some maggots, you can always eat maggots as well. It's always best to fry them up slightly, and they're full of protein and nice. But it is nice, but we'll let this one go back. So if you ever turn over any stumps, just remember to turn them back afterwards, because you are disturbing their home. But yeah, but it's all good fun anyway, and you get dirty and you get to get messy for your parents when you go home. Right, well, we're still underneath a hazel tree now. You can tell it's a hazel. They're more bushes than trees, to be fair, but they do grow up to be them. They're called hazel trees. You can tell it's a hazel because it's multi-stemmed at the bottom, and hazels always are multi-stemmed. So you can tell they're great for firewood. They're great for walking sticks. We were just looking up in it now to see if there's any hazelnuts, and I can't see any at the moment. And I think that's because we've been beaten to them by the squirrels in the area. But of course, hazelnuts are brilliant because you can fry them and you can eat them, or you can just eat them raw. You know, they taste lovely. They're gorgeous things when you get a chance. Just got to crack the outside and get into them. But you know, there's also, you know, different things with a hazel leaf, for instance. It's if you feed those to the cattle, it helps increase milk yields. But my gran told me the best bit, and she always told me when you got toothache, if you carry 2 hazelnuts in your pocket, it will cure it. It might be why I've got quite a few fillings. What we're stood underneath here is an ash tree. You can tell it's an ash tree by the parallel leaves running down the stem, and also by the black buds on it, which come out like that. Ash is a great firewood. You can use it seasoned or unseasoned. It still chucks out a lot of heat. But one of the main advantages of the ash is you can make an ash leaf tea if you want. Just crush it in, pour some hot water on it, which tastes gorgeous. But a friend of mine once told me he made it, and he swears by ash key pickle. If you look up there, you can see some ash keys. If you were to pick them before they dried like they are now, and they were still younger and tender a couple of months back, he says if you boil them up in half, you know, like half pint of water to a handful, and you boil them for about an hour, and then take the liquid away, and carry on and do that for another 4 times, because it takes the impurities away and everything, and then it becomes like a generalised pulp and add a bit of sugar, and then you leave it to stand. It creates this lovely pickle called ash key pickle. Personally myself, I can't stand it, but then, you know, each to their own. What we've got in front of us here is we've got a lovely elder tree, or young elderbush here. You can see it by its red berries, which are elderberries. Now, elderberries you can eat raw, but if you eat too many of them, they will give you a stomachache. But the advantage with the elderberries, if you pick them when they're ripe like that, when they're nice and black, you can make elderberry wine, elderberry jam, and put them in cakes, or, excuse me, I'm eating blackberries still, and other things. But if you come out in May, it'll be covered in elderflower, which is a nice white blossom. If you pick the elderflower, you can make elderberry cordial, elderberry fritters, elderflower champagne, elderflower lemonade, elderflower wine. It's a lovely bush, elder is. The one downside with it is really terrible to burn. I'd never recommend collecting any of it for firewood because it's got a pithy centre and just does not burn. What we've got here, we've got these lovely big, thick vine type things. And these are called Old Man's Beard. It's in the hedgerow. Here's some younger bits here you might recognise as well. Younger when it's green. It takes quite a few years to get this thick, but when it grows in the hedgerows and that, it's called Old Man's Beard because in the winter when there's not much else around, it's got a white, tufty little beard like an old man. The advantage with Old Man's Beard is if you give it a good tug and make sure it's hung up in the tree well and truly, you can swing on it as a kid. You know, it will just wrap itself around the tree and hang on, but make sure you give it a good tug first. The downside with it is it will take over the whole tree slowly and it will kill the tree. But it is great fun to play with. Just here we've got a garden escape here, which is the raspberry. You quite often find these just in the countryside where someone's planted them and grown them, or they've escaped, or seeds have been dropped. Raspberries are one of my favourite foods, I must admit. These are too young to actually have any raspberries on at the moment. They will next year if they're still here, which I hope so if no one vandalises it. The best thing I can tell you about raspberries is you eat them frozen. Oh, much better than fresh. That might just be me. Or alternatively, you can make raspberry cordial, raspberry syrup, sorry. You can do this with any fruit. You get yourself a load of fruit, about a kilo's worth of fruit, and if you put it in a saucepan with half a pint of water, and just stir, heat it up so it just comes to the boil, and then turn it just down under the boil and just stir it until it reduces down and becomes a lovely pulp. This takes about 20-25 minutes. You can then turn it off the heat, run it through a sieve into your jug, and then just get all the juice out, and then you've got a lovely pulp left you can eat, which goes gorgeous on ice cream, I will tell you. And you've got the syrup in the saucepan, in the jug. And then what you need to do is you add to every half pint of liquid you add 250 grams of sugar, and stir it together, and then you can put it in your jars, and that keeps as a syrup. And I will tell you, you can have it over ice cream or anything, but I love it. It's just a hot, warm drink. If you imagine these herbal gerbil drinks, like the old elderflower tea bags you can buy, they smell gorgeous, but they've got no flavour. Well, this, if you pour it into your cup and add some boiling water, it smells gorgeous and tastes of raspberry. And I will tell you, a winter warmer to have. What we've got here, just looking down here, we've got this plant here with the three-pronged leaf, or the same there, is they're alpine strawberries, or wild strawberries. They're our little strawberry, which has got quite a bit of seed in them, but they grow to about that big. And I'll tell you, they grow out in the countryside everywhere, and they taste gorgeous. And you can normally, by the end of last month, you can normally, they would have still been out, and you could have got a handful of them, and they would have been very refreshing. Right, what we've got here is our very standard stinging nettle. And of course, we all know with stinging nettles, we can eat them. You can make stinging nettle soup, stinging nettle tea. Stinging nettle tea is just pick the fresh nettles, either when they're young or tender, or just pick the nettle heads because they're younger and tastier. With any of it when you're using it, but the advantage with the tea is if you just chop them up or crush them up and pour boiling water over and drink it, you might want to strain the nettles out actually first so you don't sting your mouth. Yes, the stinging nettle tea helps, and nettles in general help against rheumatism, lowers your blood pressure, and it just in general purifies your system. Now, if you're like me, and you grew up in the West Country, down in Dorset, I actually grew up in Somerset, just on the border, but just down in Dorset they have a competition of stinging nettle eating, and it's how many of them they can eat in a certain amount of time. And I mean, seriously, they just ram them in their mouth. I don't know how they don't get stung. People tell me different stories. One bloke told me that the way he does it is he eats chili oil first, because it then numbs his mouth and he can't taste the stingers, or can't get stung by them. But they do, because stinging nettles are full of iron, they do, their mouths and tongues do go black. But I know a way to do it, and it's a very simple way. If you pick your lovely young leaf, it's a bit slower, you won't win any competitions with this. The way to do it is just fold in all the ends. Just like that, so it's folded up, and you can put it in your mouth and you don't get stung. They taste quite nice, they're good and everything, which is nice. And they're good, and they're just like a light bite on the way whenever you are, because nettles grow everywhere. The other advantage with nettles, and I'll show you how to do this roughly, but I'm not very good at it and I always get stung. Whenever you pick a nettle in general, pick it hard, don't gently brush it, you get stung, pick them hard. But if you pick the nettle stem, strip the leaves off, like so. And what we can do is you can make rope in the countryside, and all you need to do, rope string, sorry, wrong one. All you need to do is you need to break these stems down, either with your fingers, or with your palm of your hands, or a stone, or a boot. And if you break them, they'll separate off into 4 bits. Just takes a little bit of working, like that. And you pull off the 4 bits together, and if you work it all the way down, they come apart. And then you can weave them together, and you get yourself a pretty strong bit of string. I mean, that's just twisted together there. Oh, went wrong. That's just twisted together there, and that holds a fair bit of strength, as you can see. Good for tying your shoelace together or holding your trousers up. This is hawthorn here, and the good thing about hawthorn again is you can eat it. You just need to go careful for the sharp spikes, but what you can do is if you pick the leaves, either the tips or when they're young and soft, whichever, you can just add them to your salad, and They just taste nice. It's another lovely thing to eat. The cherry tree. This is our native cherry tree to the country, this one here. And the advantage with the cherry tree is it produces a little cherry every year, or quite a lot of them, which if you can beat the birds and the squirrels to them, you could climb up and pick. And they're only about that big, and they're 50% pip, but they do taste gorgeous, better than any shop bought ones. There's so much more flavour, texture, taste. They are gorgeous. The other interesting thing about the cherry tree is if you cut it down or have a branch of it lying on the floor, the bark on the outside is waterproof and will be the last thing to rot away. The entire centre of the tree will rot away long before the bark does. Now, everyone knows if you get stung by stinging nettles, you pick a dock leaf and you put it on. Now, dock leaves have been proven not to have any medical properties whatsoever, so I believe that is when you get stung it goes red and hot, and you put the dock leaf on, it's cold. But what they have shown is that with plantain, and this is one type here, here's another one slightly different here, and here's another one here, that this is where they first got antihistamine from. If you fold it in half and chew it, it will release antihistamine. Then wherever you've been stung, if you wipe it on, it just gives a nice cool soothing effect as the antihistamine takes. Another lovely little plant here, which is this white flower, or this lovely leaf here, and this is called yarrow. Now, if you just pick that and crush it, it smells gorgeous. It's a very delicate smell, but if you were to drop that in boiling water and make yourself a cup of yarrow tea, it gives you a very soothing drink that helps calm you down. It also helps to fight against cold, so if you drink this often, it helps fight against catching the cold. Yeah, now, what we've got here is we've just come to the Hughenden beehives that were left in a legacy to the trust by a lovely person. They're just at the end of the south lawn at the back of the manor. They're, you're welcome to come and have a look at them at any time, and you can see the bees going in and out there. Now, the good thing about bees is they make us some gorgeous honey, and everybody loves honey. The advantage with honey is that depending on what plant they've taken their pollen from, depends on the flavour and the colour of the honey slightly, so it can all change depending on it. So it depends where you are in the country as well. These lovely leaves is the horse chestnut tree, and in my hands I've just found one fallen on the floor. It's one of the horse chestnuts. If you open it up, it's got a conker inside. Now, you can't eat them, they are poisonous, but the good thing about it is if you drill a little hole for it and dangle it on a bit of string, you can play conkers with your mates like we all do as kids. Just under here now is a walnut tree. And they're gorgeous things, and as you can see ripen on them, they're fruit. Inside each one of these will be a walnut, and when they're ripe, they'll drop on the edges, will just gently fall off, or they'll dry out and the edges will gently fall off. And you'll be able to find that stand walnut that we then crack to get the nut that we eat through Christmas. It won't be too much longer now and it'll be ready. About now is we're looking at an ash tree. This is actually two different ash trees. And you see that big bulbous growth around the middle? Well, below that, the bottom half is the standard common ash you get in the country, and the top half has had grafted on it when it was young a Manor ash, M-A-N-N-A. Now, the reason for this is that in all the Disraeli, who managed the estate, or owned the estate, sorry, he used to be into all these different mythologies, and in many of the mythologies, the Manor ash tree plays an important part. It's the tree of life, or the tree of gods, whatever you want to call it, and so on. But what we do know about the Manor ash is that before World War I, this used to be our third place we used to get our honey from, and our sugar, you know, as natural sweetness. So if you were allergic to sugar, what you used to do is you used to be able to put a cut in the bark, in a jar on it, like we do with silver birches nowadays when we want to collect, not silver birches nowadays when we want to collect the syrup for wine. You used to just gently, it would leach out, and you just collect the syrupy juice that came out, and that would be called manna. And that was a sweetener, as good as honey or anything like that. And you used to be able to make mead out of it, or you used to be able to, you know, add it to cereals, anything you wanted. It's gorgeous. And this one here is one we've got in the park. And the reason it's been grafted on is because they don't actually grow very well in this country because of our climate's too cold and everything. So by grafting it to a normal common ash, or you know, it means it has a great chance of surviving and a higher chance because the rootstock down below and above is, and you know, everything like that is good. The advantage with it is in the winter and autumn when the leaves start to drop, just before they do that they go to a lovely red colour, like a fiery red, and it looks like a flaming ball on the hillside. What we're stood at here is one of the many roses you can get, and growing on here are rose hips. Now, They're not quite ripe yet, but you can, when they're ripe, you can give them a gentle squidge and they'll be ripe, and you can take them away and you make jams, chutneys, teas and everything like that. Or if you make a paste and put it on your face, it's said, and I've never tried this, it's said to be good for skin complexion. But I remember as a kid, what we used to do is we used to tear them in half, get the seeds out when they were unripe, and then if you dropped them down your mate's back, they worked as itching powder. That's all it is, and they were just the hairy seed. When they ripen, the seeds go squishy and disappear and you can eat them, but that would work wonders as a little itching powder. This is our wonderful historic parkland that was laid out by John Norris and later expanded by Benjamin Disraeli. It's open to the public. You're more than welcome to come round it and have a look and just enjoy yourself in the countryside. Any fallen trees, please feel free to climb on and have fun. What we've got here is the hawthorn tree again. This one's covered with haws, which is the berry on the fruit off it. If you pick these, there's many different things you can do with it. The two that I like most is you can just crush them up, add boiling water, a bit of lemon, a bit of sugar, a bit of yeast, and you can make wine with it. But there was another one I watched doing one day on Ray Mears. I thought I'd give it a go, and you just pick loads of them and fill up your whole bowl, and then you work them, you know, in your fingers like that, in the bowl, and you let it drop in, and you just keep doing that for hours and hours. It takes about 2 hours to get it right, and what happens is they break down and they start to go slightly liquidy, and then the skin and the seed float to the top, and you scoop that off and throw it away. And after about 2 hours of that, you're finished. You can, and it does take, and it hurts your hands a lot. You can then put it in your windowsill and just leave it for an hour or two to start to set, and it will set quite quick. And then once it's just set on the top, you upturn it onto a sheet and leave it a bit longer, 4 or 5 hours. You can put it in the oven if you want to speed up the process, and it will set hard, and it makes this gorgeous cake that you can cut slices off, full of vitamin C, and it just tastes fabulous. Here is red clover. Now, red clover you can use for many different things. One of them is you can just pick it and make yourself a nice clover cup of tea, or you can just eat the leaves, or in a salad, or you can just gently cook them or anything like that in a stew or anything that adds flavour. You can also make yourself clover wine with it and so on. It's just a nice little plant you can use as well. In front of us here we've got a lovely sweet chestnut tree, one of my favourite trees, and the advantages here is it's full, as you can see, of its fruit, which is sweet chestnuts. And as they ripen, they fill out inside and they'll fall off. And if you just crack them open, you'll have a load of sweet chestnuts. They don't get too big, the English sweet chestnut, which this one is. But if in the winter, if we all remember, you can just heat them up over on a hot pan over a fire, and you've got sweet chestnuts which you crack open and eat. The advantage to do with them is remember to crack them before you heat them, because otherwise they'll explode and fly everywhere, hitting them. And if you're here in the winter, we should be doing sweet chestnuts again on the estate. Our little wild food walk in the countryside today. Thank you very much for coming with me, and I hope you'll go out there and enjoy yourself. And please do, purchase your own books from general shops, whatever suits you, if it helps you to learn what it is. Just remember before you take anything to ask your landowner's consent and make sure it's not a protected species. Of course, nothing today we've looked at is, so that's okay. And just keep your eyes open and everything like that, because hopefully we do another one of these in next July, when it's when there's more wild food out and different wild food out, so it'll be exciting again. So thanks very much, and bye.